Welcome to The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. I am an entrepreneur who created my company, National Business Capital, from literally $0 out of my spare bedroom to over $2 billion in business loans secured for entrepreneurs nationwide. Since 2007, I have seen just about every type of business. I provide money and help entrepreneurs access capital to scale fast, but I also know that it's possible for you as you scale to replace yourself, to build systems, processes, and great teams of people that can live on without you so you can actually enjoy your life and your company can still grow. I will not only tell you the peaks and valleys of my story, but I will also bring on world-class entrepreneurs to tell their stories and share their lessons on their growth journeys. Welcome to The Growth Show. All right. Welcome to The Growth Show. I've got a great guest on today, Angie Wisdom, who's going to share some awesome wisdom with us. Angie is a business coach, an author, and a rockstar entrepreneur. She helps burned out business owners stop running in place and start evaluating their companies by putting themselves first and carving out the time to master their own leadership skills. Well, some really great stuff there to definitely talk about on this show, because on this show, we're all about helping entrepreneurs grow and also hearing their growth story. So excited to hear your story today, Angie, and thank you for being on the show. Thanks for having me, Joe. Happy to be here. Awesome. Yeah, and you just put out a new book, which is exciting. I'm excited to read it, The Non-Negotiable You. I guess tell me a little bit about the book, because that just sounds exciting. And I think as business owners, we're always negotiating in general and with ourselves. So true. Yeah, it was kind of a passion project of mine after sitting across the table coaching and helping people initially in the financial industry and then moving over into coaching, sitting across from them and realizing again and again what constantly gets in the way for entrepreneurs. And so I really took my 25 years of experience working with people and said, how can I formulate this and give people a proactive roadmap to bringing out this best version of themselves, that non-negotiable version, that's going to allow them to create the success in the life that they want. So it was a really fun project. There's real client stories in there about, challenges and how they overcome them to really, again, end up at this non-negotiable you that is truly capable of whatever you want. That's great. How'd you get started, being a business coach, going off on your own and really making your mission around helping others? I started out in the financial industry. I was a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. I thought my passion, I knew it was helping people, but I really loved the numbers and I loved the money aspect of it. Had already been in banking previous to that. So I really thought that was what I wanted to do, was help people build wealth, invest their money, and quickly learned that I had a bigger passion for creating relationships and helping people build their business. So I moved over into management. I was really great at helping brokers build their business and create nurturing, client relationships. That led me to start my own financial firm with my husband back in 2003, which we still have running. And I've always just been in that space of how can I help people better themselves so that they can create better lives and more success. And it just kind of evolved over time. And eventually I said, I want to do this in every industry, not just the financial industry, and created my own private practice where I get to help entrepreneurs and business owners every single day do that. That's great. Well, I mean, you left a successful firm and you were partnered with your husband. Was that a hard, decision to make? It was so long ago, and it wasn't hard in the sense that I was leaving, called corporate America. I was at a great firm. I had a successful business, but I felt a little bit like I kind of knew my future there. I knew what this kind of corporate life was going to be like, and I wanted more freedom and flexibility to go outside the norm of what your typical corporation will want you to be within. And I also saw from a different perspective the other side of the business. We moved over into futures and commodities, and it was just a whole different ball game. And I thought that was really exciting because it was an area that a lot of people didn't know about. And truly, it's like, if you're an entrepreneur and a business owner,
and you love to grow your own business, you want to be in a place where you own your own business, right? It's like, do I want to work for a company and constantly make their goals happen, and pour into them? Or do I want to build my own empire? And that made it an easy decision.
Makes sense. So, I mean, my business is helping business owners grow by accessing
Hmm.
capital. What, and so, we, see so many different businesses, and, we see all the opportunities and all the challenges. Like, what do you think is the biggest problem that you see that your clients have when you're working with, other entrepreneurs?
I think one of the biggest hurdles is business owners and entrepreneurs. They start out doing everything, right? That's how businesses start, and
Yep.
they continue doing everything, and they believe that what they did in the beginning to make their business successful, they need to keep doing. And the thing is that their role in that company changes as the company grows. So if they're not evolving with that and taking on different responsibilities and delegating their old ones, that's where they tend to get stuck in that treadmill, and they keep trying to move the needle and they keep trying to grow the company, but they're doing things that they did back when it was year one, and now they're year 4 or 5. And so they need to be doing different things. They don't need to have their hand in every aspect of the business. They've got to trust people. They've got to delegate. They have got to spend money to bring the right people on and invest in the right things that are going to grow their business.
Yeah. And, it's like, I feel like it's a combination of fear, not being able to let go,
Mhm.
ego, you know, um,
Mhm.
and whether it's, you just don't want to make a wrong decision, or you just have the need to control everything. Um,
Absolutely.
and then also just like getting almost really wrapped up in building a job around yourself. I don't think so many people realize that. They just build this whole business around them, which is really
Mhm.
dangerous. God forbid, something happens, or, God forbid, you want to take some time off and go away, and then
Mhm.
your business can't perform at its peak, or or at its best. Um, how do you go, like, because it's easy to talk about this, and we and
Mhm.
I've dealt with this with myself growing the business, and you really have to learn that. Um, and I see this constantly. Sometimes people get it and they're like willing to make those changes, and then a lot of times, I see so many business owners that just they want, um, they want to grow the company, they want more, they would love to get there, but they just don't want to make the changes. How do you deal with that when you have a client that is, stuck there? Like, how do you get to that, like, aha moment, and get that light bulb
Mhm.
to go off?
It's about really having them empty out everything that they're doing. When somebody comes to me and they're stuck and they've kind of reached a plateau in their business, 99% of the time, it's because they haven't shifted and found their real value in the company. So, one of the first things I love to do is say, okay, let's write out every single thing that you're doing for your business and your company. And almost immediately, you'll have things jump off the page where you're like, oh my gosh, you're doing things that like a 25-hour employee should be doing. And so if you want your business to go from that 5 million or 10 million to that 50 million, you're going to have to start taking on responsibilities of the person who is running a $50 million company, not someone who's running the $5 million company. And they start to see it as they write out the things and going, wow, this is where I'm spending my time. The light bulb goes off because they realize that like they can't possibly grow the company if this is where their time is being allocated. So I think that self-awareness is that first step in realizing that. And then comes that second step of who and how can I start to trust somebody to take on those pieces. And that depends on who you have at the company with you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes the self-promotion stuff is great. There's people that are really eager in your org that you're not even thinking of
Mhm.
sometimes, that want to step up. And sometimes you need to bring, an outsider in to, that's maybe had more experience. And also that can bring maybe a different point of view. Um,
Absolutely.
it's a really powerful exercise though. And I feel like that's a great takeaway for people that are listening and watching. You know, if you're an entrepreneur watching this, um, it's so easy to get caught up in the day to day, and you just kind of come in and you're on that hamster wheel and you're just going and you're just running to the next thing. And everything just starts to become subconscious that you're doing. Like you just kind of go into like this automatic mode, right? And I think when you get really conscious about like what you're doing and like literally like taking the time to write it down and document it, I've gone through that exercise for myself, my life, and my business, and it really is powerful. It's so simple. And I think sometimes, I don't know if you experience this with clients, sometimes when something's that simple, it's like, oh no, that's not the secret sauce, like
right. That's not going to help.
Like, and like, no way, like give me the like just something that's going to just massively change everything. And it's just interesting. And I've gone through that, and you don't even realize half the shit that you're doing. And it's like, oh my God, why the hell am I still doing this?
Right.
And there's been so many things in my business, and speaking of other business owners, I love when I hear this now. No one else could do this. Oh no, I could never hire someone to do this. Like no one will get this, no one will understand it. And I always call bullshit on that comment. I used to do that, and there's been so many things now that have been passed to multiple employees in my business where like I don't even know how to do it anymore. Like I
probably do it better.
100%. And at this point, there's things that I have to get refreshed on. I've got trust in people. I trust and verify. I think that's important too, especially in the beginning when you're passing things off. But there's so many things that I just thought were unimaginable that someone else can do. And the reality is I've got some really great skill sets and what I'm good in. And then there's some things that I'm not good in. And those like tedious administrative things that really need like paying attention to detail, I move way too fast, for that type of stuff. So I think it's important to do that exercise. And I mean, really, doing it for a week, you can find a lot of things and uncover a lot of things that you're probably shouldn't be doing anymore.
It's so true. And I like to have people write down what that hourly wage is for that task. That is really kind of a punch to the gut when you start writing down. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the work of a 20-hour employee or $20 an hour employee. I'm doing work of a $40, whatever it may be. And the interesting thing about that is that we don't realize that we always default to the things that were most comfortable and easy to do for us. So we're going to shy away from the things that we don't know how to do yet, but we've got to shine a light on that. If you're, say, the CEO or entrepreneur of a $5 million company and you want to be at 15, well, you don't know what you have to do to be that $50 million CEO. But you're going to have to take some time to figure that out because your habit is always going to be to continue doing the things of the $5 million CEO. So we've got to break that cycle of doing what's comfortable and default for us.
100%. And I even suggested like taking like, hey, what are you paying yourself? And even add in like, you might be, not distributing profit, keeping within the company. So take what you pay yourself, take the profit, and then, divide by 52 weeks and then divide by 40 hours. I'm sure most entrepreneurs watching this are working more than 40 hours, but just stick to a 40-hour work week because like compare that to, hiring someone and, if you're getting paid, hundreds of dollars an hour, you might want to rethink, doing, smaller tasks for sure.
Absolutely.
What do you think? What do you think the best coaching advice is that you give to your clients? I mean, I know we just talked about some good things here, but what do you think the number one thing is?
As far as for what particular area for clients? Did you say
just
coping?
In general, like just like in coaching, like what
coaching?
When you're coaching, yeah. Sorry, when you're coaching a client, like what do you think? Like this is like the best piece of advice that I give people.
Yeah, it's intentionality. What are you actually being intentional about in your day? We are a society that moves fast. We have so many distractions. And if you are not intentional and present, you will go through your whole day in a default phase. And our default is set up from past experiences and beliefs and actions. And if we continue to do that, we're not going to move anywhere. We're going to get everything that we've gotten in the past. So simply adding intentionality, where am I going to move the needle today? What do I want to accomplish today? All of that is going to bring so much, of a driving force into your business. And it sounds, again, one of those simple things that you say. Sometimes people are like, oh, it sounds too easy. It can't be that. But it makes a huge difference when you wake up and you're like, okay, what am I doing to move my company today? Instead
Yeah.
of just falling into, I got to do the emails, I have this meeting, and all the stuff that's going to get thrown at you regardless. You've got to carve out time to be intentional about working on your business instead of just in your business.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I just interviewed somebody, another really cool entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talks about this like 4 hour workday. Now it's not
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I just show up and work 4 hours, but he's saying you still work your 8 or 10 hours, and hey, maybe you get to a place where you only do 4 hours a day, and that's what you get your business to, and God bless. But it was more about like taking 4 hours a day to work on the needle moving things. And it even got me thinking, just things kind of stack up and you're running in a million places, but really like getting intentional and like what are those needle moving things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable how you can get really focused, kind of go through this stuff, and then maybe get to that next level, life happens, this happens, and you took a different course in your business that were unexpected, and then all of a sudden all this stuff just winds up piling on, meetings and everything else, and you're just going.
So
And
true.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if what you think about this, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Zoom call, like almost like Zoom meetings has like um, really kind of almost like it's so easy now to have these meetings with people, like, because back in the day, like, to do a phone call with someone, I mean, we used to do conference calls, right?
Right,
And
right.
but I feel like now, because of Zoom, everyone's just so quick to do a Zoom call, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel really busy from doing them. But is that really getting you to your goals and results? And I almost feel like I just talked to so many owners, and they just like, I'm just going from like Zoom to Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, and like, about what? you,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah.
Uh, so,
It's almost like that, what are you giving a yes to? And I tell my business owners all the time, like, you've got to protect your yeses. And we get into this habit of, yeah, yes to every single meeting that pops on the calendar, yes to every opportunity, but you've got to filter those through what your values are as a person and what your values are as a company, so that you're giving yeses to the right places and your bandwidth isn't being wasted, your time. But to your point about that 4 hour day, it's amazing when we have less time and we focus what we can get done. I mean, you probably realize this with money. When we have an abundance of something, we tend to waste it. You have an abundance
yeah,
of food, gets wasted. You have an abundance of time, you procrastinate, you lollygag around. You have an abundance of money, you don't track it, you don't budget it, you just spend. And that's what
yeah.
happens when we like have all day to do something, or we're just committed to working 8 to 10 hours a day. You will probably be a lot less effective and productive than if you said, I have 4 hours to get this done.
It's so funny, my aunt used to tell me when I was younger, if don't like, if you aren't like getting your shit done, she was like,
Uh-huh.
take on more, because you'll
Right.
figure out how to fit it all in and get it done. And I
Yeah.
was always like, what is she talking about? Like, if I
Yeah.
can't get this stuff done, how am I going to take on more? But it's actually interesting. Like, as I've as I've grown, my business has grown. Like, the more I take on, like, the more I get done, which almost doesn't make sense, but it really is. So it's so true, because you really respect and utilize the time. And
Mhm.
to your point, Angie, the days where like my calendar's not stacked, sometimes I'll be like, what do I do today?
Right, right. You're like, and then at the end of the day, you're like, "What did I do today?" Right?
So
What
you
actually
definitely
happened? Yeah.
you definitely need to be intentional and get focused on, or when I've because 4 hours a day, it's a lot of time,
It is.
so like, what are you intentionally doing that to move the needle in your business? Interesting
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah. And I love questions like that. I mean, business owners, entrepreneurs can ask these questions every single day, like one question a day of like, what am I going to do to move the needle? What's, the biggest, what could have the biggest impact on my business today? Those questions of self-awareness are huge, because we just don't usually take the time to answer things like that provide just so much opportunity.
Yeah, to the time to pause, think, and plan, instead
Mhm.
of just going and going. And
Yep.
we're in this world today where it's just everyone's just running and going, and you almost feel like you need to be doing that just because of the herd's doing it, So it's
Yeah.
actually really interesting. What are your thoughts on, um, you know, people come to you, they want to hit goals, they want something more, out of their business and their life. Um, and it's great to have goals and to hit things. We've I've done this in my business, starting with the end result and then reverse
Mhm.
engineering it backwards. Because a lot of times you say like, oh, we want to do this, but it's like, well, like why and where that number come from or whatever it is, that goal. Okay. And then, all right, if that number you think is real and it's obtainable, great. But then like, what are like the chunks and the things that you're actually going to do to get there? What are your
Yeah,
thoughts
I
on that?
love that methodology. I mean, I use it all the time. It's actually how I wrote the non-negotiable you. It's how I developed the morning mindset journal that goes with it, in this sense of like, if we know this is our problem, how do we avoid having it happen in the first place? Or if we know this is the result we want, what does that result look like 2 weeks before it happens? What does it look like a month before it happens? Our minds can operate easier from that perspective than looking at a goal and going, wow, there's this giant cavern between where I am now and where I want to be. It's really hard for our mind to understand, like, what do I have to do to get there? But if we jump to that other side and go, okay, if I'm already there, then what happened a week before, a month before, 2 months before, 3 months? It starts to make sense. And we just create that whole formula, with the end in mind, starting there.
Yeah, no, good stuff. That's awesome. It's actually
Mhm.
really amazing to hear that that is a big methodology in your book. That's really cool.
Mhm.
So, do you ever have a coach for yourself?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I always have a coach for myself. I had a book coach when I was writing my book. I have a personal trainer, which I consider a coach, for my fitness aspect. I have a life and business coach as well. I'm a big believer in it. I mean, when you get to a level where your performance and your mindset and the decisions you make are so important and have such an impact on your life, it's so costly to not have one,
Yeah,
whether it's time that goes by or decisions that you made that you didn't have enough thought in. There's too much on the line to not have that sounding board and that person to ask you the questions that's going to create that clarity that you need.
I agree. And I, I'm a big believer in coaches, and I've had them in a number of areas of my life and in my
Mhm.
business, and different ones throughout my growth journey. Um, I would get wrapped up sometimes, like, if, like, well, if this coach isn't a, billionaire, then, do I,
Ah,
you
yeah.
know, and what's funny is, and someone said something to me once and it stuck with me, Michael Jordan had a great coach, but his coach couldn't play like Michael Jordan,
Yep.
and wasn't Michael Jordan, right? And I think I like heard Michael Jordan talk about this in an interview, and it really is so true. Like your coach just needs to point out the blind spots, hold you accountable, and bring that structure. I think into your life, and personally, I've found it really helpful. And I think if you're really committed to growing your business, or getting more out of yourself in your life, whatever it is that you're trying to get more out of, to not have a coach, I think, and you kind of said this. I mean, I think you're losing more than gaining, and
Mhm.
to me, like I'm always surprised how many people don't have them, and but are want more, or getting stuck and kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And I think the other value that I've had from coaches is, you as a coach, you get to be in, you're active in a lot of different people's lives and businesses. So you get to see a lot, and there's a lot of experience there. And for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, a lot of times, most people are dealing, most entrepreneurs, it's one of the same 5 or 6 problems. So, I think, you as a coach, you get to see a lot of those problems and have a lot of experience in solving them, which I think just help save people, time and money.
It's so true. And you bring up, kind of the typical coach relationship where people come to a coach for problems or challenges. And so I think that's part of the problem, is that most people think coaching is for like, well, I'm stuck, or I have a problem, or I have a challenge, so therefore I'm going to get a coach to help. But there's a whole nother realm of coaching where it's like, you may not have a problem or a challenge, and you may not feel stuck right now, because if you're a high performer and you tend to get things done, you probably aren't falling into that space very often. But it becomes this like, what don't I know? What aren't I
Yeah.
seeing? What am I missing? And that's often a whole nother side of coaching, that people bring to the table, because they're just like, I don't even know what to look for. Things are great. My business is good, but I feel like there's more I can tap into. So I need someone else to ask me questions and to kind of bring out something in me that I may not be utilizing.
That's actually a really great point. And even recently, the coach that I've been working with, you know, things were, are good and in a really
Mhm.
good place. But knowing that there's a next level, and wanting to get there in the most effective way. I think from kind of going through the growth cycles and the brain damage over the years,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, things are good, but we want to go to, another place. How do I do this in the most efficient, strategic way at this point, instead of
Mhm.
doing things by, trial and error, and, bashing my head against the wall to get results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because for an entrepreneur and business owner and successful people, you get to a place where things start to feel pretty dialed in. And so you're not having all these problems and challenges pop up. And we tend to minimize things, right? Because it's just not that big of a deal. Like if you've worked on your mindset and you respond really well, things don't phase you as much. So therefore, we kind of like don't give them a whole lot of thought. And what I'm getting at here is like, I have a coach. Very rarely am I going to her with a problem or a challenge. But when I start talking about, okay, well, what's the littlest thing? What's the thing that popped into my mind over the last week? And I didn't even give it any attention. It's like those little nuggets when you can dig into it and go, gosh, I was really thinking it would be cool to have this other program. I was really thinking I don't want to work with clients for, less than this amount of time. It gives you this space to just dump out and see if there is something there, instead of just kind of minimizing it and letting it all kind of pass by you.
Yeah, really good stuff. It's so pointed. And I think too, as you continue to improve and do better and grow, it's like the little things. It's not usually like any one big thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
little things that will create big change.
Right. Right.
Good
Absolutely.
stuff. Awesome. So what's one big goal of yours?
I am doing more speaking right now. That was kind of the goal with this book. I love to speak in front of an audience and pour in and have an impact at a bigger level. So, goal of mine is being at an event every single month and working my way up to, be on stage in front of 10,000 people eventually. So, that's what I'm headed towards.
Exciting stuff. That's awesome. I have no doubt
Yeah.
that you'll be there, and look forward to seeing you on a stage at some conference soon.
Love it. Thank you.
Good stuff. So, what does the future look like, for yourself and everything that you're doing?
Another book. Absolutely loved the writing process of my first one, and it's done really well. It's been fun to see the impact it's had on people. And I was actually just talking to a client this morning, and he said, I feel like you wrote this book for me. And he was like, it was speaking directly to me. And I said, well, that's funny because I've had so many people say that. And he goes, well, that's really good for you in the book, but that makes me feel like I'm like everybody else now. Like we're all in the same boat. So it was kind of it was a funny way and a funny awareness to bring about, but that's been really fun and special for me. So I'm already kind of planning out my next book, so that will be coming, more speaking, and my goal is to impact as many people as I can. So content and the reach is just, increasing that every single day and hopefully changing somebody's life who's going to change somebody else's life and all have a greater effect on the world.
Good stuff. Well, you're definitely doing it. And I appreciate it. And I'm excited to read the book myself. And I hope it talks to me too. And, and, what is, as we wrap up here, what's a growth tip that you would, leave or drop for, our audience?
Spend time with yourself every single day. I mean, that's the basis of my book. It's the basis of the success of all of my clients, is that you are the most important asset to yourself, to your business. And so if you are not spending time with yourself on a daily basis, you are shortchanging yourself. So that could look like even 5 or 10 minutes of creating self-awareness, understanding what your intentions are. That will be the biggest game changer in your life and in your business. And believe it or not, it's simple and easy to do, but the majority of people don't do it. We try to work without ourselves instead of with ourselves. So do that simple thing and you will see a drastic change.
Good stuff. I love it. It's a great growth tip. And as we said earlier, just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's not effective. Don't overlook the simple things. Some of those simple things could have major effects in whatever it is that you're doing. And can we see a copy of that book? Can you show us? Because I know it's like behind you. Why don't you hold it up just so everyone can see the cover of it?
Oh, yeah. The Non-Negotiable You. Mindset Mastery for Daily Success. Yep.
I love it. I love the cover. It looks great.
On Amazon.
How do we find that book? On Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah. Just Google it, The Non-Negotiable You. You'll find it on there. And you know how quick Amazon is. They'll get it to you in like a day or so.
Yeah, or the same day. And how can folks find you and learn more about you, Angie?
The name is not super common, so just Google Angie Wisdom. That's the name of my site. Instagram, YouTube, Threads now. It's all Angie Wisdom Life Coach. You'll find me out there, and I'm always putting out great content and always happy to connect with people to lend support and make an impact.
Good stuff. Well, obviously, if you're watching this show, you're committed to growth as well, and growth is a true commitment. So check out Angie's book, and if you are looking for a coach, definitely get connected with her and keep growing and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for being on the show, Angie.
Thanks for having me, Joe.